School is back in session, and I know for me, I used to be super excited for the first week of school because I knew that a refund check would be deposited into my account very soon. And I'm just being honest, I was super excited for that refund check because I spent the entire summer being broke, and soon enough my bank account would be seeing positive days again. And college is really exciting, but college is also the time of your life where you'll probably be the poorest you'll ever be. And so I'm going to help you to survive on a college budget so that you don't have to go into debt or get into more debt, and set yourself up for the best financial life you have to come. Hi, I'm SHANA of the Wealth Vibe, and I create videos to help you eliminate debt, grow your income, and build wealth. When I was in college, I was super focused on how I was going to set myself up to live the best financial life to come. And part of that really was me focusing on how to get a high-paying career. And I heard a few things about savings and investing, but I really didn't know what to do. And I didn't know at the time that my spending habits and my budget habits were going to be integral towards me having the best financial life to come. And I had to get those things under wraps in college. And now that I've made all the mistakes out there with my personal finances, and I've learned what you should actually do to survive on a college budget, I'm actually going to share with you some of my tips so that you can actually do better than I have done in the past and set yourself out for your best financial life in your early adulthood years. So before I get into the video, I want you to drop down in the comment section and write yes or no to whether you received a refund check while you were in college. Because like I said, I was super excited for refund checks because that was when I knew I was going to have money again and that I could do things again. A quick story while you're writing down in the comment section your response to the question. My first refund check that I received, I didn't even know that it was a real thing. I was a first generation college student and I had no idea that you could actually get refund checks. And then the crazy thing is, after I got that refund check, I went to the ATM on campus. It was a Bank of America ATM, and they had just put in those ATMs where you could do check deposits into the ATM, and I had never done an ATM check deposit before, and I screwed it up. I put the check into the wrong compartment, and I don't even think I put my debit card in. I think I just was like, oh, deposit the check. I signed it and stuffed it into this little compartment that I found on the ATM, later to find out that I did it incorrectly. And so I lost about $7,000 by depositing my refund check the wrong way. But I got the money back. It's okay. I didn't lose $7,000 completely. I just had a snafu. And since then I have learned what to do with my refund checks to make sure that I set myself up for a great financial life. So let's get straight into the video right now. So you may be a person who does not get a refund check to cover your personal expenses throughout college, and that could be great because that might mean that you have paid for college all on your own and you're paying for everything out of pocket. Or you might be getting a refund check because you have a scholarship, which is also great. Or you might have a refund check because you're getting excess money from a student loan to cover your personal expenses. No matter how you are paying for school, these tips that I'm going to provide are beneficial for you so that you can not only survive on a college budget, but also so that you can set yourself up financially after college as well. The first thing that you want to do when you're setting up your college budget is consider something that Dave Ramsey calls the 4 walls. So you may not have ever heard of Dave Ramsey because, to be honest, I never heard of him either while I was in college. As a matter of fact, I only heard about him 2 years ago when I was 30 years old. So it's a-okay if you never heard about it because I'm going to break down to you what the 4 walls are. So the first thing that you want to consider in your budget are these 4 walls. First thing is your housing and all your housing related expenses. Then secondly, you want to consider your transportation. Third, you want to consider your food. And then lastly, you'll want to consider clothing and personal care, hygiene type of items. And those are your 4 walls, because those are the things that are going to help you survive on a day-to-day basis. And it's really important that you keep this foundation covered, because that's going to help you excel while you're in school. Because you don't have to worry about, where am I going to sleep tonight? Where am I going to get my next meal? How am I going to get to class? All those things are all going to be covered for you, and you can actually focus on getting great grades so that you can graduate and get an awesome paying career. So with those 4 walls, there are a few things that I want you to consider when you're budgeting for the 4 walls. When it comes to your housing expenses, you want to make sure that your housing expenses are less than 20 to 25% of the amount of money that you have to cover your expenses throughout the semester. So if you're going to be paying for your housing, your rent from your refund check, you only want to be spending about 1/4 of that on housing. And one of the things that I did when it came to housing was I paid my rent up front for the entire semester, because I couldn't trust myself enough to just keep my money and make sure that I had it available to pay for my rent on a monthly basis for the next 4 months. Some places might not allow this. So if you feel like you can't trust yourself to keep your money available so that you can pay your rent on a monthly basis for the next 4 months for that semester, I would highly suggest that you get a high yield savings account with a bank that is not your primary bank. I would just put it into one of those high yield savings accounts so that you don't have access to it on a day-to-day basis, but you're able to pay your rent from that account. That way you're not tapping into it, and then you don't have to worry about the fact that you'll have housing at least for the next semester until you get your next refund check. You'll also want to budget for food. When it comes to food, you might already have a meal plan, which is awesome because a lot of your food needs will be covered. Most of the time you end up getting a lunch or a dinner meal package, so you only have to worry about breakfast, and that'll cut down your food costs a lot. But if you don't have a meal plan, you'll have to set aside a lot more money for food. However, you're in college and you should be living on a college budget when it comes to food. That means that you should not be eating out every single night or for every single meal of the day, every single day of the week. You want to try and limit the amount that you are spending on food. Now granted, I am very well aware that if you are living in a dorm, it is likely that you do not have the accommodations that you need to cook all of your meals. And so you'll have to probably order out a few times a week. So you want to set aside a realistic budget so that you are not eating out every single day, but you do have a little bit of balance to accommodate the fact that you might not be able to cook as often as you would like to. So you need to balance between whether you have a meal plan, whether you have a place to cook, and how many times you actually want to go out to eat. And you also want to factor in just the meals that you're going to be spending out with friends. Sometimes you'll be out at night and you want to grab a slice of pizza after the club, or you want to celebrate a friend's birthday or something like that. And so you'll want to factor in what's a realistic budget for you for food throughout the month. In my opinion is that you probably should not be spending more than $200 a month on food as a college student. When it comes to transportation really is going to vary as well depending on where you are for college. So if you are in a major city like I was for college, I just need a Metro card and I would put a few dollars on my Metro card and that would be great. So you'll want to figure out what your situation is like and whether even your parents are going to help you cover some of those expenses like your car insurance or even your car payment. So you'll want to figure out a budget for those things so that you minimize the amount that you spend on transportation. You'll also want to make sure that you're prepared clothing-wise while you're in college. For me, I lived in Miami my entire life until I went to college in Washington, D.C. And so I actually didn't even own a coat or any of the things that you need to survive a winter storm. And so I had to buy a lot of things. Luckily, my parents did help me out and they purchased a few coats and, mittens and scarves and things like that I needed before I got to college. But as you're living there, you'll start to realize that You might need a few other items as well to help you stay warm, or to just deal with the different variations in the weather. You don't want to be spending money every single semester buying new clothes. That is a mistake that I made. I took my refund checks and I would buy up all the clothes, and it really was not a wise thing to do. So you'll want to set a budget maybe of anywhere between $200 to $500, depending on what you actually need. Make sure that you factor the 4 walls into your budget, and you want to do that first before you start planning for anything else with your funds while you are a college student. I think it's really important to factor in money to do fun activities and have some entertainment, because you need to have balance in your life. And these are critical years for you to be making friends with people that will hopefully be long-term friends, or even acquaintances that you can rely on for job referrals or whatever. So you want to try to build in some fun so that you can build relationships with folks that you meet at college. I recently learned about sinking funds, and it's something that I wish I would have learned about a long time ago, and something that I wish I would have implemented while I was in college. So for me, some of the things that I wish I would have had a sinking fund for were for pledging. That's a major expense while you're in college. If you're interested in any type of sorority or fraternity, you often have to pay dues or membership fees, and they tend to be a few hundred to $1,000+. And so that's something that I wish I would have had a sinking fund for. Also, for moving expenses, it's inevitable that you will move while you're in college or even after college. So while I was in college, I moved two to three times while I was in college. And then I knew, of course, that when I was graduating that I was going to have to move. And so I wish I would have had a sinking fund set up for moving, so I would have already had that money set aside and it wouldn't be such a burden on me when it was time to move. I also wish I would have had sinking funds to pay for things like GRE testing or my application fees for my master's programs. And so those are things that I knew I was going to do towards my junior and senior years of college, and I should have been saving up for them the entire time while I was in college, because it would have made the expenses a lot more manageable. So those are some of the things that you might want to consider having sinking funds for. So that way you're not having to ask family or friends for extra money, and also you're prepared when those expenses come up and you don't have to think twice about whether you can do them. Now that I've actually learned about sinking funds, it's really an integral part of my budgeting. And so I actually save up for my sinking funds in a digital way, and I use Simple Bank for my digital envelopes that I use for sinking funds. People tend to do their sinking funds in different ways. They tend to have multiple bank accounts within one account, or they might do an envelope system where they put money into paper envelopes that have the whatever fund or whatever goal they're trying to save for labeled on that envelope, and they'll set that money aside until they need it. So whatever way works best for you, you should try to set up a sinking fund for some of those expenses that you know are going to happen. If you're interested in checking out Simple Bank, I'll have a link down in the description box so that you can check them out, because I find it's really easy and a great way to do digital envelopes. If you took out student loans to pay for college, another thing that you'll want to consider in your budget are student loan interest payments. It's really important to start paying on the interest that you accrue while you are in school. So if you took out an unsubsidized student loan while you were in college, you will start to accrue interest from the first day that you signed on the dotted line for those student loans. And the interest will start to accrue and make the amount that you owe for your student loans in the end a lot more. The advantage you have when you pay your student loan interest payments every single month is that you will avoid something called capitalized interest. And so that means that you'll end up paying a lot more if you hadn't paid your student loan interest before it was capitalized. And it's really important that you try to reduce the amount of money that you pay towards your student loans. This is something that my uncle told me back in 2009 when I originally took out my student loans. And he said, Shayna, you need to pay the interest on your student loans every single month. And I just brushed him off. I was thinking like, why would I pay them now? Most of my student loans are subsidized. Only a fraction of them are unsubsidized. And the whole point of this is so that I can pay it later because obviously I don't have any money. And really, I should have paid them because now, 10 years later, I have accrued over $10,000 of interest. And I'm going into repayment next month. And if I don't pay that $10,000 of interest, that interest will be capitalized, meaning that I would then pay a lot more money for my student loans than I originally took out. And realistically, on a monthly basis, the $56,000 of student loans that I have only accrue about $70 to $80 per month in interest. And that's something that you can realistically factor into your budget, especially if you have less student loans than I do. You could probably be only spending about $20 per month on paying the interest towards your student loan payments. And in the long run, this is going to save you a lot of money. So I would highly advise you to add a line item for the interest that you accrue on a monthly basis for your student loans because you will avoid capitalized interest. An IRA is an individual retirement account, and in 2019, you can put in up to $6,000 in an IRA. So as a college student, you might be thinking, I don't have $6,000 to put into an IRA. And that's fine if you don't have $6,000. If you have $100, you should put it in an IRA. Now granted, not all companies will allow you to put $100 into an IRA. Some companies have a $1,000 limit for you to be able to invest, but companies like Betterment will allow you to open up an IRA with less than $1,000. So look out for companies like that will allow you to open up an IRA and start investing, because the earlier you start investing, the better for you, and one day you can actually become a millionaire. Once you have your tuition, your books, and any other expenses covered, whether that be through your own money, your student loans, or scholarships, you'll want to create your budget that covers your four walls, your fund money, your sinking funds, and your retirement savings through an IRA. And if you have any trouble or you need any help getting started with your budget, I'm here to help you, and I have a video here on how to budget that you can check out, and this will jumpstart your ability to live your best financial life. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure that you share it with someone else that might need this help, and I hope that you subscribe so that I can see you in the next video. Bye.